is Terry Bradshaw, quarterback, Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's 7:15. There's a new home run champion of all time, and it's Henry Aaron.
This is baseball, Major League Baseball. And this is
ABC's Monday Night Baseball, live from Fenway Park in Boston, Massachusetts.
Looking. He's under the gun. He's tied. He throws. It is.
Tennis, anyone? That's right. We're on serve here at Past Our Prime as we are looking back at the April 26th, 1976 issue with Evonne Goolagong on the cover with the question, does Evonne have Chrissy's number? That's the headline. We'll get into that and more as we look back at the world of sports from 50 years ago like we do each and every week. And when I say we, I mean it. Bill Mahoney and Mark Hoffman and me, Scott Johnston, all here. I'm going to discuss the dominance of one Chrissy Everett. I think sometimes when we talk women's tennis from back in the day, however, Evonne Goolagong gets overlooked, a huge figure in the world of tennis from down under. And speaking of down under, when I think of Australia, the first thing that comes to mind is music. I think of Men at Work, who I loved back in high school, and of course the Bee Gees, Olivia Newton-John, AC/DC. What about you guys? When you guys think of Australia, Bill, what do you think of?
Well, I did like In Excess. I believe they were from there as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Australia, I just think of it's dumb. I always think of what is it? Crocodile Dundee. He's got the knife, and the guy goes, "Give me your money," and he pulls out a knife, and Crocodile Dundee goes, "That's not a knife. This is a knife," and it's like this really long,
like a sword. He pulls out a sword.
Yeah, exactly. The guy's like, "Oh boy, I remember that." And obviously, Foster's, but
yeah.
That's Australian for beer.
For beer.
Right.
And they always.
I don't even have to ask you.
Someone from Australia and you try that shrimp on the Barbie thing. I have a lady that one of the PTA ladies from Australia. I go, "Do you put shrimps on a Barbie?" She goes, "That is so American." They're called prawns in Australia. Hey, I'm just screwing everything up.
Right. Well, Mark, I don't have to ask you now because Bill took both your things.
Sorry.
Well, no, it's okay because the only time I sound Australian is when I do the crocodile line. That's not a knife. This is a knife. It's the only time I sound Australian,
I thought you were from there right then.
Good day, mate. Put a shrimp on the barbie. But I got to go to Australia in 2017. I went to Sydney and stayed in Lavender Bay, which is really close to the bridge. And then you walk across and the opera house is there. And I loved Sydney and stuff. And then we went a little bit into the country. We went to what's called like the Blue Mountains. There's the Three Sisters. But I really, really liked Australia. I'd like to go back, but see Melbourne, go Brisbane, see the Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah.
Though I have to say, I also loved New Zealand, maybe even better. But I won't tell that to any of my Australian friends. But Australia was great.
You didn't see any big bugs there or anything, Mark?
No, what they say in Australia, there's more things in Australia that can kill you than anywhere in the world. The animals are just, while in New Zealand, there's nothing in the wildlife that can kill you. So I'm going to test that out. I'm going to go back to New Zealand, find the most deadly snake I can, ask it to bite me, and see if I live.
Yeah, and crocodiles are there too, aren't there?
Well, he was called Crocodile Guy.
No, you're right. That's pretty dumb on
There's
my
got to be
part.
crocodiles
And there's big
Australia.
spiders that climb through toilets and stuff.
Oh, God.
There's great big sharks,
Yeah,
so.
That's great.
Yeah.
Sign me up.
Right.
No, but it's really neat. I highly recommend people to go visit it once. The Opera House is unbelievable. And it's not just one opera house. There's a bunch there. The big one is the one everyone recognizes, but there's also like little like theaters there too. But yeah, I totally recommend.
Yeah, I would
Australia.
love to. I would love to. Of course, soon enough, we'll probably have another Australian baseball player, which they have had, quite a few. Dave Nielsen and Liam Hendricks come to mind. But the number one overall pick in the draft, I think last year, maybe 2 years ago, was Travis Bazzana.
From Cleveland.
From Australia. So if he
Indians,
pans out. Say again?
Indians?
I believe
Guardians.
so, yeah. Guardians, yeah.
Yeah, Garb, sorry, my bad.
Wouldn't it be great to interview him and all of a sudden the Australian accent comes out and you go, wait, I didn't know you were Australian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh gosh, how many
It's
times do you think that happens? That has to happen all
well,
the time.
remember the player on the Cubs, Junior Lake, and with a name like Junior Lake, you thought, hey, that guy speaks perfect English, and then you find out, no, he only speaks Spanish, and his name is Junior Lake. I mean,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah,
very American sounding.
it sure is.
Yeah. Well, there's that prank that Kiki Hernandez did where he doesn't speak Spanish, but he pretended in the minor leagues that that's all he spoke, and so he would just never like listen to his manager.
I had a teacher, I took a voiceover class like at UCLA. This was probably 1981. And the first day of the class, the teacher, we all come in and the teacher comes in broken English. He goes, this is the class we will teach, and he's like speaking. You can't understand a word he's saying. And about 3 or 4 students got up and just left because they're going, what the hell is this guy doing teaching a voiceover class? And then after about 5 minutes, and he saw whoever was going to leave, then he broke into perfect English. He goes, okay, I just do that to see who's committed to this class or not. So,
Oh, wow.
Good. Wow.
All right, scorecard. Mark, you go first. The Mariners of the WHA, what?
yeah, this is the year that the San Diego Padres and Sierra Mariners merged and had a hockey team. No, they were called the San Diego Mariners of the WHA. And the San Diego Mariners, really had money problems and they weren't a very good team. And the history is really fascinating. So they started off as the New York Raiders. That's when the Jets and Raiders combined. But then they became the New York Golden Blades / Jersey Knights. Okay. This is like their first 2 years of existence between 72 and 74. Then from 74 to 77, they became the San Diego Mariners. So that is the history. And you know who bought them out to kind of try to save the franchise a bit? And if you think about it, okay, you're in San Diego. Who's the one guy that's going to come to try to buy you out to kind of save the team?
Ray
Who would
Kroc.
that be? You got it. Ray Kroc. So the team drew well actually in 76, 77, but they only managed to get about 5,000 fans a game. So Kroc sold the team to a group who planned to move it to Melbourne, not Australia, Florida.
Yeah.
However, they couldn't find an arena. So then it was sold to a former minority owner of the Flyers, a guy by the name of Bill Putnam, who changed his name's team to the Florida Breakers, and they would play in Hollywood, Florida. That deal fell apart. So basically, deal after deal after deal fell apart, and the team just went into, oblivion.
Yep, into the dustbin of history.
Right. There's a lot of teams, and their colors were blue and orange, just in case you were asking.
Yeah.
Edmonton Oilers there.
Yep.
Yeah. Hey, Billy, you got one that is, we go from down under to way out there.
Yeah, now back in the 70s, I remember the UFOs and Bigfoots. That was always the big thing they were trying to discover. Well, Ruth Norman, she's 76 years old. She goes a little bit too far with this. She wagered $6,000 with a company that a UFO would land or crash on Earth in 1976. I was around then. I know Mark was around then, and Scott, you were there too, I believe. I don't remember any UFOs landing or crashing on Earth in 76. Well, with Ruth, if she would have won that $6,000 bet, her payout would have been $600,000.
Wow.
But the lady didn't have the money anyhow. She was actually sending payments of $500 a month to pay for this bet.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
It's a layaway plan.
She described it as a sure thing,
Yeah.
even joking that she had inside information, while skeptics remained unconvinced.
Yeah. But she did, Scott, she did refuse to reveal an exact date too.
Yes, although she knew the exact date.
Yes.
It was never.
Oh, I'm telling you, aliens are among us.
Yeah. She was late. I looked her up. She was later known as Uriel, an American religious leader, which is a nice way to say a cult. She
yes.
co-founded the Unarius Academy of Science with her husband, Ernest Norman, promoting beliefs in past lives, psychic healing, and communication with extraterrestrials. Despite controversy and failed prophecy, she built a devoted movement centered on spiritual transformation and elaborate mythology. Until her death in 1993, she led that loony bin of people, after which the organization continued under new leadership. Mark, when is the next meeting for the UAS, the
Yes,
Unarius
please.
Academy of Science?
Well, I have confessed to them my true nature, so they know about me and stuff. But
Yeah.
we hold these in secret because, it would just be too much, And I've met at the White House with different presidents because, the whole Area 51 is true, And Victor Wembanyama is an alien. He is from the planet Nano,
Yeah,
but people
Yeah.
don't realize that.
Yeah.
So
Like
this whole
Lori.
alien thing is an inside joke.
it sure is.
That's
I
right.
will say this, if anyone wants to bet me $6,000, if ET is showing up this year here on planet Earth, I will take that bet.
I'll double
Phone
on that,
home,
baby.
Bill.
Come
Phone
on,
home.
bring it on.
That reminds me of this quote as we get to They Said It. There is a very easy way to return from a casino with a small fortune. Go there with a large one.
Ba-da-da-boom.
That's why casinos get bigger and bigger, because that's what people do.
Sure is. Mark, They Said It.
Back when quotes were bold, they said it. Back when quotes were bold, they said it.
Well, Richard Dunn, who's a European heavyweight champion, he was scheduled to fight Muhammad Ali on May 25th. He has 9 losses, 8 by knockout and 42 bites. He said, doesn't look very good, does it? And he was a prophet because he was right, because he got KO'd in the 5th round. And Ali started taking it easy on the guy because he realized, oh man, I could really hurt this guy. So he helped him make it to the 5th round. But yeah, I mean, and he knew it. He knew it. I mean, I guess the only hope he had was like a one-punch knockout. But he ended up, his record was 33-12. He had 16 KOs, 45 professional fights, and he was a southpaw, 6'3", from England.
Lennox Lewis.
Right.
Yeah.
And there have been some really good boxers that have come out of there. And then I think he lost after the Ali fight. I think he lost to Joe Bugner in London.
Yep.
He was, what was interesting? He was the subject of an episode of the show This Is Your Life, which if people don't know what it is, they surprise some celeb or athlete or politician, and they basically tell their life story, and they have people from his childhood and as he was growing up all appear. And so I think this might have been an English version of This Is Your Life, but they did one for him. He tried a hotel venture, didn't work out. He lived in North Yorkshire. He had 3 kids, and he went back to work as a scaffolder. And then he got injured in 1989 working an oil rill in the North Sea. He fell 40 feet and broke both his legs. But he still lives in Scarborough in North Yorkshire, where he does charity work for Parkinson's, and he's an honorary president of the team's amateur boxing club. The last line here, and I am saying this isn't from the top of my head. I'm reading the source that is God, right? Because we know Wikipedia never lies or stretches the truth on stuff. But the last 2 lines they say is he got dementia and Alzheimer's disease. So, hopefully, he's not suffering, and it sounds like he had a pretty good life.
That's a lot of done that I never knew.
Sounds
Yeah.
like he needs a doctor. Bill, you know a doctor here?
I do. It's Dr. Joyce Brothers. Very nice segue. She's a television psychologist on the addiction of her husband to televised sports. She says, if we get a divorce, the only way he would know if it happened, would announce it on. Oh, man, I screwed that up. Sorry. If we get a divorce, the only way he would know it is if they would announce it on Wide World of Sports. Thank God I got that.
Oh yeah, that's
I
why
think
you don't.
my take of it was better than what she said. There's a lot of its and ifs that came out of nowhere on that. Apologize.
That's why you don't have a TV.
The only way he would know it is if they would announce it on Wide World of Sports. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. There's your punchline. There you go.
Oh, too funny.
Oh my God.
But back to Dunn. When he was 7, sorry.
Yeah. Well, he found a frog.
Tom Williams, Houston's black assistant GM on the Oilers' top draft choice, Mike Barber, who is white. He weighs 230 pounds, has great hands, runs the 40 and 4.5, does the high hurdles in 13.7, and high jump 6.6. Sounds like he was born the wrong color.
Hmm. Well,
You gonna hang
Tom.
on to his brothers.
Yeah, exactly.
it's a brother from another mother.
All right, now we get to something kind of serious. The first article in the magazine is called "The Week of Disgrace on the Ice," and it's a shocking wave of violence dominating playoff hockey with brutal fights, severe injuries, headlines. Think of that. Just the fact that I said playoff hockey, brutal fights. They basically don't have fights in playoff hockey anymore.
They try not to.
Um, but it was such a part of the game back then, the fighting, that it didn't matter that it became playoffs or not. Authorities stepped in aggressively. Players were arrested, charged with assault, and warned that the legal system was going to intervene if leagues couldn't control the chaos. Joe Watson, Mel Bridgman, Don Selesky, Bob Kelly, all four members of the Flyers, charged in Toronto with assault for using their sticks as weapons after a violent playoff game against the Maple Leafs. And Bill, there was another one that might have been even worse.
Yeah, this is the WHA. This is Mark Tardif, Quebec. He suffered. He suffered a severe concussion after a brutal hit and attack by a guy named Rick Jodzio. But Jodzio didn't just hit him. Jodzio was in the penalty box. When he came out, he skated 80 feet to deliver the hit, knocked Tardif out when he was on the ice, then got on top of him and beat the hell out of him more. Kept punching him on the ice. Tardif had to be taken off the ice on a stretcher, was completely knocked out. They thought he'd be sidelined for his rest of his career. He actually did come back and play, but just brutal. Nowadays, that doesn't happen.
I mean, this is at least the third time that we have. In fact,
Yes.
there was an issue where
Boucher, Forbes.
where it was the cover,
Yeah.
back then, and I would say that the league basically at some point, not in the 70s, maybe not even in the 80s. I don't know how long it took, but there was going to be someone who was going to see some jail time if this nonsense didn't stop. And
Yeah.
look, I still love when they drop the gloves and blah, blah, blah. It's so fun. But it was escalating to a point of pandemonium. And, a lot of people thought the sport was becoming a joke. So the culture of intimidation, especially from teams like the Flyers, had spread across hockey, making violence feel normal and even strategically accepted. So, and Mark, these were almost full scale riots that, we saw every once in a while in other sports.
Oh yeah, I mean, hockey tends to people think of it as a violent sport. It's the only sport where they allow people to fight. Other other sports they don't. But I always think back to a couple things, and they both happened in 2004. The first one happened in September of 2004. Milton Bradley had this short fused temper, and what I remember about Milton Bradley when he first came to the Dodgers, he did something where he visited elementary schools, and his mom came with him, and he would be talking to these kids, very mild mannered stuff. But then sometimes on the field, he would just lose it. And in September of 2004, so he makes an error. He's playing right field. There's a fly ball. And I remember I was working and I watched this happen live. So there's a fly ball and he loses it in the lights. And it's an error and it would cost the Dodgers a game. And a fan threw a plastic bottle right at Bradley. So what does he do? He jumps into the seats and slams the bottle right at the fan. Then he has to be restrained by people. The umpire, Jim Joyce, had to eject him. He was suspended the rest of the season. He had to go through anger management counseling. So, and to see a player jumping in the stands fighting, it was just weird. But then a few months later in November, you had the Malice in the Palace in basketball in the NBA between the Pistons and the Pacers, where you had fighting in the stands, players fighting fans. It was nuts.
Great documentary on that on Netflix.
Yeah, it was very good, Scott. Yeah, I watched that. That was very good.
Yeah. Fast ride on the Puerto Rican Rolls Royce. Angel Cordero Jr., who we'll have on the show in a couple weeks, celebrated his Wood Memorial win by watching replays and reflecting on his humble beginnings in Puerto Rico, where he rode his first race in 1960. Riding bold Forbes, Cordero confidently predicted a strong showing in the Kentucky Derby, calling his mount the Puerto Rican Rolls Royce. This was a good horse, Mark.
Oh, it was absolutely a horror. I mean, it was a dominate was the favorite. It would end up winning the Kentucky Derby and it would end up winning the Belmont, but it did not win the Preakness. It came so close to being a triple ground winner. And you know, he led from start to finish in the Kentucky Derby. I think he won by a half a length over Honest Pleasure. And then in the Preakness, he took an early lead, but then with a battle with Honest Pleasure, they both tired in the final stage, and they were beaten by, oh, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Elocutionist. And that was the thing that deprived him of being a Triple Crown winner. But an unbelievable horse. And in '76, he'd won the Wood Memorial, the Bayshore Memorial, the San Jacinto Stakes, the San Vicente Stakes, and then 2 of the Triple Crown races. I mean, no wonder he was named the American Champion 3-year-old Male Horse of the Year in
Yeah.
1976.
So that's a horse, you're saying, right?
Yeah.
That is a stud.
Well, because at first you said it was a good whore.
You
And I
did.
thought, wait a minute. We've gone down a road.
Well, think about this. They are put out to
At this
stud.
point.
So what are they then?
Yeah.
Okay.
They are living the life is what they are. Yeah. A net gain for concentration. The Virginia Slims Championship in Los Angeles featured the top women's players, with Chris Everett and the cover woman on this week's issue, Evonne Goolagong, emerging as the expected finalist. Mark, back in the day, Chrissy and Evonne, they went up against each other quite often.
Right. Well, they said in this article they already met 26 times, I think, with Chrissy winning 16 of them. So, I mean, it's they're like they probably know each other's games, and any counter that one wanted to do, the other would realize it. But yeah, Goolagong, someone that people just forget. They know Chris Everett, they know Martina Navratilova, but they forget how good Goolagong was. I mean, she won the French Open when she was 19 years old in '71, and she won Wimbledon and she won Australia. But the U.S. Open was a different story.
Yeah, no doubt. And Goolagong from Australia entered the tournament on a dominant run. I think she had won not only, I want to say 15 matches in a row, but hadn't dropped a set. So she was playing the best she probably ever played in her career. And seems like Evonne could hang with Chrissy Billy, but not when it came to the majors.
No, just go to 1976. Everett was 6-2 versus Goolagong, including 2 wins at Wimbledon and the U.S. Open. They're talking about the Virginia Slims in this article, and Goolagong won that one. She was good at beating Everett in regular tournaments, but sometimes when it came to the majors, just couldn't get over the hump against her.
And the most amazing stat is that there's the U.S. Open stat where she made the finals 73, 74, 75, 76 every year, but lost every time. 0-4. So the whole new phrase that always the bridesmaid, never the bride, when it came to the U.S. Open.
Yeah. But one of the all-time greats, no question about that. Evonne Goolagong. I think she was number 1 at one point. In fact, I think that's why she's on the cover, is at this point she was just about to become number 1 in the world. So
in most any other era, she might have been a lot more popular. But when you're with Navratilova, and then you got Everett, and then you got Tracy Austin coming up, she just sort of faded into the background.
Billie Jean King, yeah.
Billie Jean King, Virginia Wade, yeah.
And there's a great picture in the article of her with her husband, and they were doing this long honeymoon period. So they just look so happy together.
Yep, absolutely. I hear she's a great woman. Evonne Goolagong Cawley rose from humble beginnings in Barella, New South Wales to become one of tennis's most graceful champions, winning 7 Grand Slam singles titles and reaching world number 1 in 1976. A proud, I'm going to try this, Wiradjuri woman. She stunned the world at 19 by winning both Wimbledon championships and the French Open in 1971, later adding another Wimbledon title in 1980 as a mother, an extraordinary Open-era feat. Her legacy continues to resonate throughout the sport, including with Pam Whitecross, a founding-era WTA figure who has spent more than 50 years shaping women's tennis as both a player and respected official. Honored with the 2024 Spirit of Tennis Award, Pam remains a steady, behind-the-scenes force, mentoring players, upholding the game's standards, and carrying forward the influence of pioneers like Goolagong Cawley. So thank you, Pam, for joining us today on the Past Our Prime podcast.
My pleasure, Scott. Thank you.
Hey, Pam, when you think about Evonne Goolagong, what made her style and presence so unique compared to her contemporaries?
Yes, look, she she was unique, and from her humble beginnings in Barellan, which oddly enough, where I'm living right now is only 100 miles away from Wagga Wagga, where I am, and it's Wiradjuri. You did it pretty well. She's a Wiradjuri woman. Look, she just had an inbuilt talent, and she grew up in a loving family. There's recently been a wonderful TV series on her that showcased her background, and she just had that drive within herself. But she wasn't, as you said, graceful. She was graceful, and she floated around the court in actual fact, and her shots were just dreamlike. And yeah, I really can't pinpoint it more than that, Scott. Yeah.
How significant was Evonne's impact on the global growth of women's tennis, especially coming from Australia and an Indigenous background?
Well, definitely for us younger Australian players, and I was one of them. Evonne's actually 2 years older than I am. So I never played her in junior tournaments, but she was always there. You know, the junior tournaments, you always had the under 15s, under 17s, under 19s all playing at the same venue. So you saw each other, and to see this athlete back then, just well, she's I'm going to say she killed her opponents, but she always won. You know, you could count on it. I don't think there were too many times when she didn't win junior titles and then went on obviously to bigger and better things. And she was guided by her coach Vic Edwards, who discovered her when he went out into the country areas and saw this young girl who was, you know, so much better than older players in this coaching group, and he brought her to Sydney, where he actually coached her and had a plan, and their plan worked. They, as you've just said, she won Wimbledon not only once but twice, and I think that, you know, we looked up to that for sure, and I think it's with anything in any sport, when someone breaks through the barriers, it brings others along, and that's certainly what happened in Australia. Yep.
So when she wins the French Open and Wimbledon in 1971 as a 19-year-old, how much did that capture the imagination of the country back in Australia? How proud was everyone there when that happened to her at so early an age?
Oh, totally proud. I mean, the small town of Barellan, where she came from, they gave her a parade. You know, there's now this giant tennis racket that's been erected it's been there for many years now. It's actually seen better days, but I believe, I haven't seen it myself, but there's this massive giant tennis racket in the town. So they were very proud. You know, people chipped in money to send her on her first trip overseas. So yeah, and the whole country was behind her and was celebrating her victories. Yeah, so she really did inspire others.
You know, here in the States, we have Mount Rushmore, where you've got the four presidents on the mountain. If there was sort of a Mount Rushmore in Australia for like the four greatest tennis players from the country, would Yvonne be on that Mount Rushmore?
Oh, totally. And you know where it would probably be? We have the big rock in the middle of Australia called Uluru. It was formerly known as Ayers Rock. That would be an absolute perfect place to have this one, because that would be, you know, her heritage for sure. But no, they wouldn't do that because they don't damage anything. They're preserving their history, all the Indigenous people. So, but that would be, yes, that could be something that could happen, Mark.
You know, I was just thinking about the same thing, because you have Rod Laver and you have Ken Rosewall, Margaret Court, Evonne Goolagong, and John Newcomb. So you have 5 for 4 spots. I don't want to be the one who decides who's not getting on that rock there, but that's quite the company down for Australia. They really did represent their country well back in the day.
Absolutely. Well, I think I'd go for two females and two males. So yes, one of those men would have to miss out.
Yep. See you, John.
Yes, he's the baby. Well, no, actually, he's older than Evonne, but yes, I think they won Wimbledon at the same time. But anyway, it's a long time ago. My memory's starting to fade a little.
Sure. It was made a big deal that in 1980 she wins Wimbledon as a mother. You know, how important was that for her to get back to that level once she had become a mom?
Oh, I think, look, she obviously loved the game. You know, as I've said, you know, she had this talent oozing out of her from a very early age, and that talent was still there, even though she became a mother with Kelly, her little bub in tow. And I remember Kelly running around the tournaments, and for sure, Evonne was able to get back to the standard that she played when she wasn't a mother, and of course that's reflected today as well on the WTA tour. We've got so many mothers that have rejoined the tour after giving birth to sons and daughters.
She marries Roger Cawley in 1975, 50 plus years later, still married to him. What kind of influence and impact did Roger have on her career and obviously on the rest of her life?
Oh, I'm sure a tremendous amount. He guided her, not just as well. He became basically her agent and her confidant. Once she'd finished her time with Vic Edwards, yes, Roger took over. They were obviously, you know, young lovebirds and travelled the world together, and they're still young lovebirds. I saw them last year at the Tennis Australia Newcomb Medal Awards, and they have just done so much together, especially here in Australia.
So Yvonne won the Australian Open, she won the French Open, she won Wimbledon, multiple Wimbledons, but the U.S. Open was the one that eluded her. 4 years in a row, she makes it to the finals, and 4 years in a row, she loses. How frustrated was she that she just couldn't get over the top in that one particular major? The other ones, no problem.
Yeah, look, I'd only be guessing, Mark, but you know, different surfaces. Although she did win, look, back then in those 70s, the US Open was played at Forest Hills on the Hartrue, on the clay. She did win the French on clay, so you know she had an all court game. She could play on every surface, no problem. But yeah, maybe obviously you've got to give credit to opponents. So perhaps on those days, her opponents were the stronger players. So, yeah.
She wasn't only great at singles, but at doubles. She won an Australian and Wimbledon. With your background too, how different is it as a player to succeed both as a double in doubles and just by yourself? What is the difference in strategy and is it easy or very hard to be good at both?
Well, you can be good. Obviously, you can be good at both. Back in the early days, we all played singles and doubles. You did that because you needed the money. Quite honestly, nobody was a specialist in doubles as they are today. You know, today you've got nearly separate tours on the ATP and WTA tours where doubles players. You know, maybe they've obviously had a singles career to start with, but then they focus on doubles, and of course the prize money now is so much better that they can focus on doubles. But yeah, it's not easy to do both, and especially in this era today, it's a lot more exhausting to play in both events. At a tournament, because well, especially let's say with men playing a 5-set match at a Grand Slam, to then back it up and play a doubles match, perhaps isn't the smartest thing to do if you're still going deep into the tournament. So that's why you don't see players like Alcaraz and Sinner and Djokovic and these guys playing in doubles. Whereas for the women, they can do it because they're only playing best of 3 matches. So, they are able to play singles and doubles. And for some players, I think it sharpens them up to play doubles for their singles game. Volleying, etc., and also just the camaraderie that you make with a doubles player. I think that can certainly help your singles anyway. But not everybody does it. That's for sure. But back in Evonne's day, which was also my time, yes, we all played singles and doubles, and we were all pretty handy at doing both. Obviously, Evonne a lot more handy than I was, but I was about.
Pam Whitecross is our guest, a longtime force in women's tennis, from competing on the tour in the 70s to helping shape the WTA after attending its founding meeting led by the all-time great Billie Jean King. A former pro and Australian Open doubles finalist, she went on to become a respected Women's Tennis Association supervisor and Grand Slam official. And Pam, what was that meeting like in 1973 when Billie convened you and some of the other women to try and get this thing started, to get this Women's Tennis Association to be part of the tennis world?
Yes, Scott, look, it was held. I do remember it. I do remember going into the room at the Gloucester Hotel there in London. There was probably about 50 or 60 of us that Billie had sort of said that this meeting was going to happen, and she did. She was she's a force to be reckoned with, Billie. Of course, and she's still going strong. She's amazing, the drive that woman has. And the passion for the game, and not just tennis. I mean, now she's into baseball, she's into hockey, she's anything. She loves her sports, as most of us do. But back then, Billie had the vision, and we needed to band together because, once again, the prize money was ridiculously weighted in favour of the men, and the women were lagging behind. So she knew that something had to be done, and you can't do it alone. It was done by the numbers. So the majority ruled, and look at what we've got today. We've got an absolutely multi-million-dollar international worldwide tour going to all sorts of places. In fact, I only learnt last night we're going to go and have a tournament in Angola. So that's going to be something. We're spreading ourselves around the world.
From your perspective, how has the mission? Hello?
Sorry. Yep, sorry.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, from your perspective, how has the mission of the WTA evolved over the years? I mean, I'm sure back in the day, you guys had to scratch and claw to get your share, and now you guys have made this to where it's a respected, equal part of tennis.
Oh, absolutely, and it did. I mean, those pioneers, those leaders, Billie Jean and Rosie Casals, several of them, the name players, Betty Stover, Virginia Wade. I mean, all of those gals. Initially, Evonne and Chrissy didn't join. I think both their fathers, or Vic Edwards and Mr. Everett, weren't too sure about it, and they stuck to a USTA circuit back in the mid 70s. But of course, eventually they did join, and Chrissy became president of the WTA there for many years, following in Billie's footsteps. And yeah, I mean, it's evolved to now being it's a business. It is now a business. I mean, but it took a lot, and I have to also give a special mention to Venus Williams. Venus was a very strong advocate for equal prize money, and she managed to get equal prize money at the Grand Slams. So these players, these women that had power, their voices resonated and spoke loudly. So they certainly deserve the credit.
In the States, we considered our major sports to be, baseball, football, basketball. Some might say hockey, some might not. In Australia, where does tennis rank in terms of what captures the imagination of the public?
Oh, it ranks very highly, very, very highly. Always has and always will. Although perhaps in these more recent years, participation numbers may have dropped off a little. Our big games here are Aussie rules football in the winter, cricket in the summer, but now also soccer is a very big is a very big game and participation sport. Team sports, basketball. We've got some very good basketball league. There's also the NRL, which is the rugby league. So I think a lot of families tend to put their children into team sports, but the individual sports like tennis are still there. Swimming is another big one, of course. Athletics, but you only have to look at the numbers going to the Australian Open this year. My goodness, I think they broke the 1.5 million attendance record, something like that. I mean, it was massive, and it's not just a tennis event anymore. It's music events. There's so many things that go on, but that's what happens these days. It's the same with the US Open. That's and they're extravaganzas, but certainly tennis in Australia ranks right up at the top.
I wish you could explain Australian rules football for me. I've been trying to follow it. ESPN would broadcast it many years ago, like at midnight and stuff like that. And when I was in New Zealand and Australia, you see it all over the TV, but I can't quite get it. I do have cricket tickets though for the 28 games.
Right. No, we're very passionate about our football. In fact, well, it's a bit like you guys too. You have your team and you stick with that team forever, whether they're winning or losing. And very, very passionate. And the season's only just started. I think they're into game 6 this weekend. But I love it. I grew up. I was a bit of a tomboy, so I used to kick the footy in the street with the neighbours, the boys, and. I can say I was probably the best kick out of them all, but
I bet you were.
But I was going to say though, but Evonne, she is a star in Australia because, from what I understand, didn't it drop this year? Wasn't there a 3-part series on streaming service called Goolagong? Did you get a chance to watch that? And how accurate do you think they portrayed her?
Oh, I certainly did. I just alluded to that just before. They portrayed it very well, and I actually had a very good friend who helped on that series, coaching the main actor to play like Evonne, to portray how she actually hit the ball, because the way we used to play and the way Evonne played is not how the grips used and the strokes played is not like today. So to portray it really realistically took some effort, but they certainly did. And I believe that most of the content was also very realistic. Yep.
More than 50 years in tennis and still making an impact, dedicated her life to the game of women's tennis. Thanks so much, Pam, for coming on the Past Our Prime podcast. Job well done. Who could have imagined that you're in that room in 1973 and what you were a part of at the very beginning, what that could have turned into? We tip our hat to people like you. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Scott and Mark, and I've enjoyed it, and I hope your listeners have enjoyed it as well.
Now, we mentioned that Evonne won 7 Grand Slam titles, but that was in singles. In doubles, she won another half dozen, 3 of them with Peggy Michel, who turned a standout college career at Arizona State into real success on the Pro Tour, teaming up with Evonne Goolagong Cawley to win Grand Slam doubles titles at Wimbledon in 1974 and the Australian Open in 74 and 75. These days, she's still deeply involved in the game, playing a big role behind the scenes at the BNP Paribas Open, otherwise known as Indian Wells, one of the biggest stops in tennis each March. Peggy Michel, thank you so much for joining us this morning on the Past Our Prime podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor.
So you're paired with Evonne because I think you guys shared a coach, Vic Edwards. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct. I met Mr. Edwards and Evonne and Tricia in 1969. Was my first year over at Wimbledon, and I was playing a few of the tournaments before Wimbledon. And my partner was Patty Hogan from San Diego. But I met them, and I used to hang on the fence watching Mr. Edwards coach Evonne and Tricia, and we formed a very good relationship, Mr. Edwards and myself. And I said to him, I said, you know, I'm going to play Wimbledon this year, but then I've got to go back to college. And I said, would you train me once I'm through with college? And so he said, you get back, or have your dad get back in touch with me once you finish your college career, and we'll talk about it. So that's how it started. He invited me to come over to Australia. And at the time, you know, I was playing very good singles. I had lost in the finals, I think, of the NCAA at the time, 2 of the tournaments. And so I wanted to improve my singles. So I went there to work with him on singles. And once I got there, Evonne had taken off to visit with her family. And then she went some other places. And so I trained with Vic and his coaches. And, you know, doing very, very well and everything. And so then one day he said, look, everybody wants to play doubles with Evonne. And I said, well, that's great. I mean, she's a great tennis player, of course. And he goes like, well, you know, Margaret Court, Billie Jean King, you know, all of the Australian girls. And he said, but she'd like to play with you. And I said, well, that's very nice. And he said, but wait a second. I said, okay. He said, you have to pass a test. And I said, well, what's the test? And he says, you meet us at the Canadian Open in Toronto, and I'll enter you and Evonne in the singles and the doubles, and we'll see how well you do. So I said, thank you. And so we met over there in Toronto, and very fortunately, Evonne and I won the tournament. We beat Martina Navratilova and Helga Nielsen in the finals. And so he said, you've passed the test. And I said, well, that would be great. And he said, now I have to tell you one more thing before you agree to do this. And I said, all right, what's that? He said, just remember that whenever you win, Evonne's going to get the credit. And whenever you lose, you will be blamed. And so I kind of looked at him and I said to him, well, then we're just not going to lose. We're just going to have to win all the matches we play, you know. And so that's how it started. And it was a wonderful period of my life. We didn't play that long because you know, I came off the tour in 1977, around 77, due to health issues. But we did play, and it was one of the best times of my life. Evonne and I just clicked on the court. I knew where she was going. She knew what I was going to do. And it was just a great partnership and a great friendship. And we went on and played world team tennis for a couple years, and we had great success, you know, with world team tennis. So I was very lucky. It was a goal that I had set for myself when I was about 14, that I wanted to win Wimbledon. I never said singles or doubles, so I just said Wimbledon. So, but it was not only did we, you know, we had a great time, you know, playing, and then I traveled 1 year with Mr. and Mrs. Edwards and Evonne and myself. So we traveled the various tennis tournaments together.
What was it about Edwards that he saw in you that put you together with Evonne? What was it?
Well, I don't know. I mean, I was a serve and volley player. I was very quick at the net. I could anticipate, and I think it was with Evonne, I could say to her, "Look, it's break point, and so I think we need this point." She'd go like, "Oh, okay, we need this point." And I said, "Yeah, we need a winner." So we talked all the time on the court. The next thing you know, boom, she hit a cross court backhand for a winner, or set up a point to where I could cross over and put it together. But I had a tremendous knowledge of doubles in that I grew up at Rustic Canyon, and I took from Tani Tănăsescu, who was a Romanian doubles champion. And at the time, I was very young, and Tanny would always have me come and practice, take a few lessons, and then he would throw me in to play doubles or mixed doubles with all of the older people down at Rustic Canyon. And then Helen Wills Moody played down there, and I would go and I would sit off to the side and watch her play. And she would play singles and doubles, but she had a beautiful game. And so I would always, try to emulate what she did, on the court. And Maria Bueno was another one of my idols, and she was a beautiful serve and volleyer and played singles and won a lot of doubles titles as well. But I think that I made it fun on the court. There was never pressure. And I just kind of knew that, we just kind of clicked. And I guess maybe he saw that, because he did say to me one day, and I'm not trying to brag, he said, you're probably the better doubles player. And I said, well, thank you. But I could say certain things to her, or, I could tell her where I could pick out after a couple games, this girl is weak on the backhand side, or she can't hit an overhead, or her backhand volleys isn't as strong as her forehand. So I was able to make a couple comments to her. And so we just got along very well.
Now, we obviously know the success you had with her as a doubles partner, but I think a tournament in New Zealand, you actually played Evonne. What was the difference being her partner or being someone that you were across court from or playing her?
Well, back then, I loved tennis, and tennis was, part of my life. I wasn't as, I'm very competitive right now in my old age, and especially in business. And I always just felt that she was a better player. And I mean, I would go out and compete, but I always just thought, well, she's probably better, And so if I could play a match against her today, I think it might be a little bit different. I might be a little bit more competitive. But she, Mr. Edwards always used to say that when he first saw Evonne playing, she had ball sense, and that she could go to the ball, with a quick spurt, and and anticipate, and that was something that that really helped her in her singles, to where she could get off and get to a forehand ground stroke faster than anybody on the tour. And he trained her, beautifully. And she just had a way with her on the court where she played without any fear. I think she just went out there and just a lot of times she was probably, they used to say that she would go and walk about. And I think maybe it was just that it was too easy for her. But then she came back, and I remember one great story. She played Chrissy Everett, and she said, I'm going to play Chrissy from the backcourt. And Mr. Edwards said, I think you should serve and volley. No, I'm going to play her from the backcourt. Well, she lost to Chrissy from the backcourt. And then Mr. Edwards just said, okay. Next time she said, I know, serve and volley. And I think then she went out and beat Chrissy. But Mr. Edwards would say certain things to us. He wouldn't say, I can remember one player, he said, you just have to realize this player, if you notice, she's she's one of her legs might be shorter than the other leg. He'd make a comment like that or say something, and then he would try. You had to figure it out. So he taught us how to figure out how to play an opponent, and that was one thing that he did with Evonne. And she was able to, he'd make certain statements, and she took that and boom, went out. But I think she played without any fear. I think that's one of the things in women's tennis, that a lot of women play with that, I don't want to lose, I don't want to lose. Where I think she played because she loved to play.
Pam had mentioned that back in the early 70s, everybody, if you played singles, you played doubles. It wasn't like you had to make a choice of which you wanted to specialize in.
Yes.
So was there, when you played doubles with Evonne, did you guys have to meet ahead of time? Did you have to decide, this is the way, we know what each other's strength is, this is how we want to play it? It had to be a different preparation than, say, a singles match?
Well, you were playing against two people in doubles. The singles, you're out there and you're playing one person. So it's, you really had to know the strategy, and you really had to know how the two people would play and what were their strengths, what were their weaknesses. So you're on that court, and there's two other people against you. There's another person on your side. And so you look at the court, and you look at that it's you don't have the full court to play into. You've got kind of a half a court to play, because, and so you really had to, figure those out. And that's why I think we were able to move. She would move, and I could instinctively know she's going, then I would be able to come over and cover her area on the court. Or if I would say something to her, we're going on the second serve, I'm going no matter what, boom, I would go, and she would be able to cover me on the open court.
Was Evonne a better singles player than doubles player, or it's just hard to judge, because it's two different types of animal?
Well, she did win, excuse me, turn this light on. She did win other, I think she won the Australian Open with a couple other doubles players. So I think she was very talented both in singles and in doubles. And then after a while, then she stopped playing doubles, I think, and just played singles as she got older. So as I said, she played without any fear, and that's probably that's something that I don't know I think you're born with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're born with that, and she was one of the fastest players.
It's interesting because I always say to people, and it doesn't matter if you're playing tennis or whatever walk of life or whatever you specialize in, the most successful people are the ones that aren't afraid to lose. I think when people are afraid to lose, that inhibits them from succeeding.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, Mr. Edwards used to always instill on that, don't worry, you've got plenty of time. The year that Evonne and I won the Wimbledon doubles, we were driving out to the courts, and we got hit from behind. We were in one of the cars and got hit from behind. So that kind of was like, wow. And we got there late, and Mr. Edwards said, well, just, you don't have time to warm up. Just go in the locker room, get ready. And, we went out there, and we lost the first set 6-2. And we kind of looked at each other, and we're like, I don't know what's going to happen. It's just, we were okay, but the other team was playing quite well. And then we got into the second set, and something happened, and I hit an overhead smash. We played against Karen Kransky and Helen Gerlain. Karen was fairly tall, and it kind of ricocheted off of her racket. And Evonne and I kind of looked at each other, and we kind of laughed a little bit and smiled, and it broke the ice. And then boom, we just went on, and then just played boom, boom, boom. And, so I didn't think we were going to lose, even though we lost the first set. I just said, it's all right. We've got to get better. We can't get any worse. So, and that was just one of the greatest feelings, to win there. And, we were unseeded at the time. And we kept playing the seeded players, and they put us on the stadium court. We won a couple matches there. And I think in the semifinals, we beat Chris Evert and Olga Morozova. And so, it was, we certainly enjoyed, playing the game at the time.
Peggy, what it's something that I'll never be able to say I can ever do. Tell me what it felt like to win that first doubles with a Goolagong at Wimbledon.
Like I said, it was a dream come true because that had been my wish, to win at Wimbledon. And it was, I can remember I was just so happy. And what I wanted to do was that my parents didn't come over, to watch me. But the most important thing was to, I wanted to get off the court, see Mr. Edwards. And then I went immediately and called home. And back then we had those red telephone boxes at Wimbledon. And you had to put the money in. And I called, and it was a collect call. And, to share with my parents and my family, it was a thrill. And every time I go back to Wimbledon, I still get chills when I walk through those gates. It was a wonderful feeling. And, and to share it with Evonne and Mr. Edwards, it was, and Mrs. Edwards too, because she was there with us.
And then you done Wimbledon, then you go and you win 2 in Australia, which is Yvonne's home country. What was it like winning it there? It must have been crazy.
Well, we played on grass back then. And, again, you probably would think that we would feel the pressure of playing. And, but again, we weren't really seated that high. The second year we were seated number 1, but the first year I don't know what we were seated. But we just kind of went out there and played. And I just knew that, I could serve well and I could volley well. And I knew I could cover the court. Evonne could return beautifully, and I could just say certain things to her, and she could hit the ball wherever, I would say, look, the person's going to come in, they're going to chip low to their feet. The ball's going to come up and then I can cross. So, I don't think we ever felt any pressure. Maybe a couple times there was pressure playing World Team Tennis because of our owner. But I have to tell you a funny story. We after we won Wimbledon, we came back to Pittsburgh playing World Team Tennis. And, they gave us a key to the city. They had a ceremony for us. And we went out to play our match. And we were up 5-3. Playing Trish Bostrom and Janet Newberry, and we lost the set. And the people of Pittsburgh were so upset with us, and they didn't clap, and they kind of booed us a little bit. And we walked off the court, and Yvonne's like, "What is wrong?" And I said, "Hey, the people of Pittsburgh, they like winners." And I said, "That's the last time we ever lose on this court." And I think we only had two losses. And that was the last time I said, because I don't want to go through that again, because they expected us, to win. And we were embraced so by the city of Pittsburgh. And, I always go back there every summer if I can to visit, because I love the city. It was a city of champions, and they treated us, like royalty when we were there.
Mark, you're up.
Oh, sorry. I thought Bill had a second question. Hey, have you had a chance this year? They had the 3-part series Goolagong that came out. Did you get a chance to watch that?
There was that the movie that came out? Because there was a movie.
Right. But it was divided into 3 parts. It just came out this year, at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, I wasn't able. Excuse me.
Lily McGuire plays the Goolagong.
I wasn't able to get that.
Oh, okay. What was the movie you saw?
Well, this was a movie of Evonne, and it was filmed in Australia because somebody said, "Oh, there's this movie. Did you know?" And
I think that's what we were talking about. I think we're talking about the same thing.
It could be, and then they had somebody that played me or whatever, and I said, "I've never heard of anybody. Nobody contacted me, so I really have not seen that." And I was hoping that somebody would send that to me so I could see it.
I believe it's on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
And I'm trying to see who played you now, because I would like to let you know who played you in it. I'll find it out, and before the interview's over, I'll let you know who played you.
Yeah.
But
Someone awesome.
so Lily McGuire plays Evonne Goolagong, and an actor who's been in a lot of stuff, Martin, I believe I'm pronouncing his last name right, Shokash, who was born in New Zealand but is of Hungarian descent, plays Vic Edwards. And I think it's just really weird to watch something where actors are playing people that you know.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'll have to look at it and see.
Okay, so this kind of breaks up. We do a trivia segment here on the show. It's called 50-50, where we give you a 50% chance to get a trivia question right.
Okay.
So it's A or B, true or false, heads or tails.
Okay.
So the actor that plays Vic Edwards in this 3-part miniseries, which it got really good ratings, so I'll sell it as that. This is your trivia question. True or false? One of his very first acting performances was a 17-minute short called A Game with No Rules. True or false? He played a tennis player in that.
True.
No, it's false. He played someone trying to murder his wife.
Oh my God.
But it sounded like a tennis movie to me. So.
Hey, when my parents played doubles, there was always a chance one of them might get murdered. So
this is a true story. So when I first met my wife, we were trying to find a song that we could, listen to and that would be our song. And she was into country music. So Garth Brooks had a song called As the Thunder Roll. And I said, oh, that sounds like a great song. We can do that. And my wife looks at me and says, you know what that song's about? I said, no, it's about a wife shooting her 2-timing husband. I go, okay, maybe that's not our song.
Yeah. No, that's great.
But hey, there was one
in a fun way.
But there was one other question I did want to ask you, and I did ask this about Pam, and that was, we have here, Mount Rushmore with our presidents on it. If they were to do a Mount Rushmore of the great Australian tennis players, I got to assume Evonne's going to be on there. Would you agree?
Evonne, I think it would be Evonne, Margaret Court. Then I would have to look at some of the other top players. Carrie Melville Reid. There was another one, Jan Lahane, that played back with Margaret Court, and then Jan got hurt, and I trained with Jan Lahane when I went over there. But definitely Evonne. Yeah. She's done so much for tennis, not only in Australia, but all over the world. The way she handled herself on the court and off the court, it's an example of how you would like other women tennis players to act. So.
Yeah, I know Scott was talking about, he had said he talked to a lot of people that knew Evonne, said she's one of the kindest people. How do you, for someone, let's say someone's just learning about tennis or learning about Evonne Goolagong, how do you describe her? What kind of woman is she, and what do you remember about her? Playing, off the court, all of it.
Well, like you said, she was very kind. She cared a great deal, for her parents. She had tremendous pride for their Aboriginal people, and I think that she used her tennis, to express how she felt about that, and to have recognition, and to draw attention to the Aboriginal person, and also that that they're not tennis back then. And it was in the country clubs, and so it was like that all types of people should be able to play the game. So she was just I think that she just really loved the game of tennis. And then I thought it was so nice that when she did retire, that to give back. And this is what you always want in tennis players is what are they doing afterwards? Are they giving back? Are they helping to grow the game of tennis? And she was funny too. She was always funny.
By the way,
and we were a little bit mischievous too, because I can remember another cute story. After we practiced, Mr. Edwards would say, okay, what are you girls going to do? Well, and at the time that she was kind of dating Roger at the time. And so she kind of looked at me, and I said, oh, I don't know. We'll probably go see a show or go shopping. So I would say, Evonne, if you're going to go off, go ahead, you and Roger, I'll meet you later, but you're going to I will go to the show. I'll find out what the movie is, but you better make sure that you know what the show is about, because we'll be asked, what show did we see when we got back? But, so we would do things like that. We would go shopping. A couple times, I would get a call after we went shopping saying, is Evonne Goolagong there? And I said, yes. She said, well, her credit card, she kind of left her credit card. I said, okay, we'll be right back down to get it. But, not only we had a good time on the court and off the court. And, I was very, very appreciative. I stood up with Evonne when she did get married to Roger. And I became, pretty good friends with her daughter, Kelly, and what a beautiful woman she's grown up to be, and their son as well.
Peggy, just you saying that, talking about having fun, because we always see athletes and they're serious and doing their stuff. You got to see Evonne off the court, and you sort of mentioned about having some crazy stories. What's the craziest, funniest things you guys done off the court that maybe we've never heard of?
Oh, let's see. I don't know. I think it was. We were good kids. We didn't get into any mischief. I just thought, that was kind of tough for us, because, I was the type of person, I grew up and I wasn't supposed to tell stories. And so it's like, okay, it's kind of a half story because I'm going to the show. So that's okay. And I always said to Evonne, let me answer the questions, let me answer the questions about the show. But, we just had fun. And, we would always go, when we would train, some of the fun things we did, we would go to the beach and run on the beach and train on the beach. But, it was just, we just had a great time. One thing that we did that probably people don't know is that during World Team Tennis, Vitas Gerulaitis, if you remember him, he always had a party, when we were, and so it was a pajama party. So, we had to dress up in our pajamas and go to this party. And then we got to the party and it was like, we were the only ones in pajamas, and he would have a bathtub, and, none of us really drank, but he said, well, if you had what kind of a drink would you want, or something like that? It was like, Kahlua and cream or something like that. So, we did things that, when we played World Team Tennis, we were always, having a good time. But we were just, I think just the way we were both brought up, that we loved our game of tennis, but at that point, it wasn't our total life, that there are other things in life to us, to do and stuff like that. So I think we had a very well-rounded type of a life.
Okay. So I do have the information for you. So if you get a chance, it's on Amazon Prime on this 3-part series on Evonne, and there is someone playing you in 2 of the episodes.
Okay.
Her name is Olivia. I'm trying to pronounce his last name, Pippolis, Piplios. It's her second acting role.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. I'll try to see that.
It must be that'll have to be really weird to see someone playing you.
Yeah. What was she playing tennis, or was she just talking, or?
Don't know. It doesn't say here. I have to.
Okay.
He was wearing pajamas.
Yes.
Yeah.
A whole movie, which was weird.
You just said, Peggy, that you had a well-rounded life, but you've also said that tennis has been your life for over 60 years, and you've helped now grow what is the BNP Paribas Open, otherwise known as Indian Wells, the big tennis tournament every March down in the desert. What's it been like to watch that event evolve into one of the biggest in the world?
Well, again, as I said, I'm honored. I came out here in 1985. Charlie Passerelle asked my dad what I was doing, and I was back east. And so Charlie said, come on out. So I came out, and he said, I'm going to build this tennis facility. Would you like to come? So I said, okay, I'll come. And didn't have a contract, didn't have a handshake, had a hug. And he said, look, your dad's been in sales. You can sell anything. And I go like, whatever you want me to do, Charlie. And so I got into sponsorship. So that's what my first job is, selling sponsorship, selling suites. We started at my first year was at La Quinta, and it was just the men's event. And then we came over to the Hyatt, and I helped build the Hyatt Hotel. And then we had the men one week and the women the next week. And, then the next thing was to get a combined event. So we worked with the gentleman from IMG and to get a sanction. And so that's when we had both the men and the women. Then we came over to Indian Wells in 1999, and we just kept growing and growing. And we had such a great foundation with Charlie Passarella and with Ray Moore, to build a beautiful facility where the players would want to come, the patrons would want to come, the sponsors would want to come, and the media would want to come. And so Charlie said that if we took care of those 4 groups of people and treated them, with respect, and he always used to tell us, we don't use the word no. We always say yes. We'll always do the best we possibly can for them. And it just kept getting bigger and bigger. And then once that Mr. Ellison came on board and financially got behind us, then we could start building and improving the location and the facilities. And so I love what I do. I love the people that I get to deal with. I love the sponsors. I love dealing with the players, always trying to figure out what do the players want to make sure that they're happy. And again, the sponsors, take care of our sponsors. So I've been dealing with BMP since they came on board in 2008. So I take great pride in this event. It's a joy to come to work every day.
Peggy Michel, a life in tennis. Thank you so much for joining us today, sharing your stories from that incredible time in your life when you carried Evonne Goolagong to not one, not 2, but 3 Grand Slam championships. You won Wimbledon. You won the Aussie Open. I don't know what she was doing. So,
thank you. No, it was a great team effort. I'm very lucky, and thank you for having me on your show. And I hope to meet all of you in person one day down here at the BMP.
We would love that. Absolutely. Yes. You mentioned in passing that Billie Jean King and Margaret Court, they wanted to play doubles with Evonne, but they chose you. Boy, did they make the right choice. So thanks so much for coming on Past Our Prime.
All right. Thank you so much, and have a great weekend.
Thank you, Peggy.
Just so you know, Peggy, when we talk to Evonne, we're going to talk to her all about you.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much. Tell her hello when you talk to her.
Rookie cards of baseball, basketball, and football stars are iconic pieces of American history, and they have been outstanding investments over the last 50 years. Now, key issues of Sports Illustrated, professionally graded and encapsulated by CGC, have emerged as an exciting alternative to trading cards. ThePit.com is the leading online exchange for investment-grade sports magazines. General Manager Mark Humphreys offers Sports Illustrated first cover editions featuring stars like Kobe Bryant, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, Tom Brady, Patrick Mahomes, Derek Jeter, Ken Griffey Jr., and so many more. Mark Humphreys is here like he is every week to talk to us about the value these issues have. Present day, Mark Evonne Goolagong on the cover of the April 26, 1976 issue of SI. Can't think this is one that gets too much attention despite the great career by the lady from down under.
Yeah, this is Evonne Goolagong's second cover on Sports Illustrated because she burst onto the scene with a couple of Grand Slam titles in 1971. And her first cover was headlined "In from the Outback." The 70s and maybe the early 80s was the golden age of tennis in terms of its prominence on Sports Illustrated. And covers like this were not unusual because you had the baby boomers, many of them very passionate about playing and watching tennis. And this was that classic era of Billie Jean King, Margaret Court finishing up her career, Chris Evert, and then Martina Navratilova. And in reviewing Goolagong's career, I knew she was good. I didn't realize she won 7 Grand Slam singles titles. The interesting thing to me about this cover is that it speculates that Evonne Goolagong has Chris Evert's number, that she's ready to supplant Chris Evert. And without, admittedly, I didn't read the article here, but in researching it, I learned that Goolagong had risen to number 1 and was beating everyone so far. This was in April, but later in the year, she would have trouble, especially with Evert, and she would lose to Evert 5 times that year. So, so Sports Illustrated's thesis here, at least with the cover text, turned out to be wrong. And to her credit, 76 was not the end of her Grand Slam victories. She won, I think, a couple more after becoming a mother. And of course, that's something that the woman considered the greatest of all time today, Serena Williams, was not able to achieve. And even though she tried for several years to be a Grand Slam tournament champion after becoming a mother. So, yeah, there's not that much interest in women's tennis covers. Most collectors are male. They haven't shown as much interest in female tennis players. There is interest in Serena Williams because she's considered the greatest of all time, and that draws collectors, tends to draw collectors regardless of the collector's gender. But this is, I think, a terrific memory piece of an era when tennis was so significant.
Only thepit.com offers competitive buy now and sell now quotes on graded magazines online, as well as many of the most popular modern PSA graded rookie cards, including Shohei Ohtani, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Nikola Jokic, and Steph Curry. Trade sports stars like stocks at thepit.com. The fall and rise of Yankee Stadium. It's a big pictorial on the final days of the original Yankee Stadium. The renovation of the new one emphasize aesthetics and historical aura with design choices like multicolored paving and preserved architectural details meant to elevate it beyond a typical ballpark. But Bill, Yankee fans, they weren't all on board with this idea.
No, a lot of people said it's not the house that Ruth built, but the house the taxpayers rebuilt. People just weren't happy with what they did. They changed it from a place that was very much homey to a place that was very corporate. And there was a lot of guys said no. I mean, we came here with my father as a kid, and it just didn't look the same. And I went there at the new place that was rebuilt, and someone had told me, they said, "Oh, you could always just go back and see the monuments in center field." But now they had it all blocked off, and it was closed when I was there. So people had told me, they said, you didn't get to see Yankee Stadium prior when it was just really beautiful and intimate.
Yeah, and then of course now it's not even. At least then they renovated it, and then I forget what year, but now it's not even that. They rebuilt it basically. So
yeah, they tore it down and rebuilt the new one. Yeah, the new Yankee Stadium.
Completely different now. So despite modernization and changes to the field that were expected to reduce home runs, subtly altering the game itself. So, Mark, they had no home for 2 years. Where were they playing?
They were playing at the Met Stadium, Shea Stadium in 74 and 75, which is really weird to see the Yankees play a game, in Shea Stadium with that little apple, that Mets apple in the outfield. Yeah, it's just bizarre. But I mean, there's a history of that happening. The Angels played some games at Dodger Stadium until they had Anaheim Stadium built. There's definitely a history of teams sharing a ballpark until they can get a new one built. By the way, in this article, my favorite shot, there's a picture of this family, and I don't know if it's a ball player with his wife, but they got their 2 kids, and they're carrying like 2 seats, like seats from the stands home with them,
Yeah, I saw that.
That'd be like interesting. You go into someone's home and you go, they have a couch, a table, and then they have like these bleacher seats sitting there which would be really neat, like to sit in
Yeah.
them for sporting events.
My favorite sporting moment was at Yankee Stadium. I'm not a Yankees fan, but I was there September 25th, 2014 for Derek Jeter's last game in New
Mm.
York. And I don't know if you guys recall that one, but Yankees are up 5-2 going to the ninth. Jeter's 1 for 4. He hit an RBI double his first at bat of the game. So, nothing spectacular, but a nice little send-off as they go to the ninth. David Robertson pitching to wrap things up. But with one out, Adam Jones hits a 2-run homer to make it 5-4. And then 1 out later, Stephen Pierce with 2 outs hits a solo homer. And all of a sudden, 5-5. And guess who's hitting third in the bottom of the ninth? So some guy named Jose Perella singles to start the ninth. Brett Gardner then sacrifices him to second. And the place is going bananas. Jeter comes up, and on the first pitch, he lines one to right. Pinch runner comes storming around third. There's a play at the plate, head first slide. Guy is safe, and the place just erupts.
Wow.
Jeter just with a walk-off single in his last at bat at Yankee Stadium. Jeter's being hugged, and what he doesn't notice is as this is happening, Bernie Williams, Joe Torre, Andy Pettit, Posada, Mariano Rivera, they all come onto the field to congratulate him, but he doesn't see him there. And then he turns around, he sees them. He gets emotional. They all hug each other. 55,000 fans screaming,
Wow.
Derek Jeter. You couldn't have written it, a better script. So that's one of my all-time favorite moments.
You were at that game.
I was
Wow.
at that game. Yeah.
Wow.
I have never been to Yankee Stadium. That would be a bucket list thing for me.
Yeah. Well, according to this article, you'll never go there because it doesn't.
It's not the same.
It's like me saying I've never been to Tiger Stadium. The horse that could be too damn fast. We just talked about how dominant Bold Forbes was, but Honest Pleasure is also a Kentucky Derby favorite coming off major wins like the Flamingo and the Florida Derby, with speed figures rivaling or exceeding legends such as Secretariat Bill. Honest Pleasure, one of those great horses that won everything except for the big matches, the big races.
That's right. You just said won those races that you just talked about, the smaller ones, but couldn't get over the top when it came to the major races. Did finish second in the Kentucky Derby once, but a wonderful horse. But in those major races, you truly don't know that there's going to be someone that could be faster, at least in that race.
The Triple Crown races are all longer, mile and a quarter, that kind of stuff. And he was a speed horse, and they were worried that they couldn't slow him down. So he just would go out and run. And that's exactly what happened in the bigger races. He couldn't keep up at those lengths. So Honest Pleasure.
And now we don't know anything about horse racing.
We really don't. Nope. The word, according to Tom, the article describes the rise of sportianity, where athletes are used to promote Christianity, essentially endorsing religion the same way they might endorse products. Bill, the Tom they are speaking of is a Hall of Fame football coach.
Yeah, Tom Landry. They actually gave him a nice little comic book here. It was a Christian comic book, but it portrayed him without showing his bald head. They wanted to avoid, the publishers wanted to avoid implying faith caused baldness.
I never knew that.
Yeah. So gosh, yeah. Don't put the baldness on. We don't need anyone thinking that. It seems odd that people would, but I'm sure there's someone out there going, man, so if you have faith, you're going to lose your nice head of hair. Don't do it.
I have no faith then, apparently.
Yeah. Wow.
Obviously, I have a lot because I'm losing my hair.
Athletes are being used to sell religion. They endorse Jesus much as they would a new sneaker, said somebody. And this is all the, what was it? The Athletes in Action was the group that was going around spreading the gospel and playing sports. But they also had not just Tom Landry, but Terry Bradshaw was part of the people that were helping spread the word.
Sorry, Bradshaw's the guy that lost his hair.
Oh, that's right. Yes, he did. See? Can't
Maybe
believe
they should have
him.
picked, a guy that had hair like Namath.
Right. Tarkington.
Exactly. Stay away from the baldies. You know that being faithful, you lose your hair. Come on.
When Kareem, I first noted his bald spot before he shaved his head. I go, wait, that's a bald spot in the back of Kareem. So
Yeah. They like when you point that out.
They do.
Yeah. Good field, no more hit. Brooks Robinson is described as baseball's premier defensive third baseman. I mean, growing up, Brooks Robinson was not just the premier third baseman, probably the premier, until Ozzie Smith, he was like the premier defensive everything. You just knew he was, it didn't take long for Gold Glove to come up when you were talking about Brooks Robinson. His manager, Earl Weaver, however, is uncertain about his offensive decline, saying Robinson will be given a fair chance to prove he can still contribute while maintaining elite defense. Bill, he really hung on a bit too long.
Yeah, he hit 211 in that 76 season. Then he came back for 1977 season and hit 149. And now no one's ever going to know this. But he finished his career in an 0 for 13 slump. Sort of sad way to end his great career.
Yeah. And, at one point was all-around ball player, won the MVP, I want to say, in the mid-60s, had a great season, so had some power. But, a lot of these guys, they feel like they can still do it, but their body just doesn't let them do it. So,
but the thing is about in sports, it's in front of millions of people. When you're a regular job, when you get to a point where you get older, not everyone's watching you like they saw it. They could look at Brooks Robinson and go, oh, man, what a great fielder. Man, don't put him up in the ninth inning. He can't hit. So they're sort of on display.
Yep. Hey, after Brooks left, Mark, who replaced him?
a guy by the name of Doug DeSenses, who then later ended up with the Angels, had a long career with the Angels.
Heck yeah.
And my favorite Doug DeSenses memory is I interviewed him after the Angels won the AL West Division in 1982. And a couple years later, in '84, there's this Angel calendar that arrives, and I'm flipping through it, and I get to the month of August, and there's a shot of Doug getting interviewed by all these reporters, and there's a big head taking up a third of the page, but all you see is the back of his head, the hair, and a little frame of glasses, and that's me taking up like almost a third of the frame. So I am Mr. August of 1984.
Yes. All the women, that's all they would talk.
Yeah. Yes.
Elsewhere in baseball, Billy, give us an update on Tommy John.
He made his first return from Tommy John surgery, his surgery, with a strong outing. He finished 10-10 in the 1976 season.
And he
went
was
80 plus games over the next 4 years, though, with the Dodgers and Yankees.
And what's remarkable is everyone thought, oh, this is such a wonderful story. He's come back to pitch. No one thought that he was going to have this long career after the surgery. This was just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. He won more games after the surgery than he did before.
Yep. And still can't get in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's gonna change. Hopefully, what is it, next year, I hope.
I mean, if you just say, forget what he did on the field, if you just go with contributions to baseball,
right,
he should get it.
Yeah, but what if you combine the two?
That's what I'm saying. Then you would think he's a lock, but they let everyone else in, it appears, but him.
Yeah.
Well, I hope he gets in, because then it'll add to our prior guests.
Yeah, that's
Hall
right.
Of Famers
That's
on
right.
the show.
Our Hall of Fame list.
Sure. And I know he's been having some health issues, so
yeah,
hoping he's doing okay. What else is going on that week, guys?
Yeah, the A's, they hired astrologer Lori Brady. You never have enough good people to see the future. Well, the team lost 3 straight games after that, so she didn't choose that.
It was easy
Thurman
money.
Munson became the first Yankee captain since Lou Gehrig, and he was the first guy to hit a home run in the renovated Yankee Stadium.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if Lori Brady saw that, though.
No. No, she predicted he was going to strike out.
She did. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And she bet $6,000 on it.
That she's still paying today.
Well, if you work for a bad team, you just predict your guys are going to lose. You're going to be right 2/3 of the time.
Yeah.
That's true.
And you'll be without a job, too.
You bunch of losers.
Right. Boy, we got a lot of horse racing, and the first 2 stories were about great horses. This one is not so good. Riding for a fall at Pimlico, a serious racing accident at Pimlico Racecourse left 20-year-old apprentice jockey Karen Yarosh critically injured, sparking rumors of conspiracy, revenge, even mafia involvement, none of which were substantiated. Incident highlighted ongoing prejudice against female jockeys. But anyway, Bill, tell us what happened.
Yeah, she's on the rail, and the horses were close, and they tried to blame it on one of the male jockeys. They said they didn't like her and they were trying to get rid of her, which isn't true. But she just got too close to the rail. There was a little bump. She went into the rail, fell onto the turf, was crushed by another horse.
Mm.
She was 21 years old. She suffered 6 broken ribs, a punctured lung, and she had massive internal damage. She underwent 15 liver operations, lost her spleen and her gallbladder. Just terrible.
Oh,
Wow.
yeah.
And she was a good jockey.
Yeah. She's 21.
Her name was Karen Yarosh, Yarosh. She never really got a chance to move on from that terrible day.
Mm-mm.
Injuries
She
just
tried,
stayed
though.
with her. Yeah, she did eventually get back on the horse and ride again. But she
But the
said even
pain.
then it was incredibly painful to do. And 10 years later, Mark, this did not have a happy ending.
No. So, I mean, she survives the fall, but it basically is just a slow death. It's almost like having cancer. It's just a slow death. And 10 years later, she falls into a coma. She dies in the hospital. She weighed only 60 pounds when she died. So just all the effects from the fall and stuff like that, and um, it's such a shame. And not only did it deprive her of her livelihood, but the rest of her life, was just one hospital stay after another.
Right.
Very, very, very sad ending.
Very incredibly dangerous sport that does not get enough attention as to what these jockeys are putting themselves into.
But you
Well, let
talk
me
about
ask you this.
when we talk to jockeys, we mentioned you've won like 1,700 races or whatever. That's 1,700 times they could have been killed or severely, handicapped out of that.
And
Absolutely.
think about this. If you ride a motorcycle, okay, the motorcycle is, or a car even, it's the car and the motorcycle do not move, okay? You're on top of something that's moving, living, and breathing.
Yeah.
So it can be unpredictable. And then these jockeys don't sit in the saddle. They're like crouching, above the saddle. So, it's just one wrong turn and you go flying off that horse and you break a neck.
Not good. Poor thing.
On that light note.
Yeah. One double order of Big Macs. The playoff series between the Buffalo Braves and Philadelphia 76ers was a tightly matched battle highlighted by the star power of Bob McAdoo and George McGinnis. A Big Mac versus a Big Mac. And Mark, two of the greats.
Oh, yeah. And a previous guest on our show, Bob McAdoo. And they ended up winning that series over the Sixers. They would lose in the next round to the Celtics. But for a time, that was Buffalo Braves basketball was top of the world there.
They were a good team back then. They couldn't quite get past, the Celtics, but who could, right?
Right, exactly.
Meanwhile, in the ABA, the New York Nets and San Antonio Spurs engaged in a heated, chaotic series, but Dr. J proved too much for the Spurs to overcome. So McGinnis was quoted as saying after the loss, "There's always tomorrow." Well, next year he's going to have tomorrow, Dr. J alongside, and that's going to take the Sixers to new heights. So Dr. J is about to start his NBA career in the city of brotherly love. For the record, Mark.
For the record.
Well,
Because
I'm going to talk about
gotta keep score.
Larry Brown, who was named the ABA Coach of the Year. And we were just talking about the Nets beating the Spurs, Oh, Larry Brown was the coach of the Spurs at one time. But yeah, he's the ABA Coach of the Year. And there's a Sports Illustrated article on the ABA, and there's a picture of Larry Brown in the article. And I love it because he is coaching a team. I don't know if he was a player coach at the time. He was coaching a team in overalls. He has a bright shirt and he's wearing overalls over the shirt, which was a fashion statement in the 70s. But
Yep.
can you imagine seeing an ABA or any kind of a coach today?
Yeah.
Dressed in overalls?
No, thank God.
But by the way, he was coaching the Denver Nuggets at the time. And he was, for the second year in a row, he was named Coach of the Year, and the third time in 4 years he was named Coach of the Year. Because Larry Brown was an unbelievable coach. I mean,
He
he coached
was.
till what? Late 70s.
Yeah, and he coached a lot of teams.
Yep.
So Bill, everyone knows Larry Brown. Now you're going to tell us about someone nobody has ever heard of.
This was an odd one in the For the Record because in the 3 years we've been doing this, I've never seen a story like this. Roger Torrey Peterson married Virginia Westervelt. You know, you knew they were going to eventually get married as long as they'd been dating. Now, you asking me, Scott, you don't know who that is. I know Mark doesn't know who that is. I had no idea. Well, Roger Torrey Peterson is known for field guides that helped everyday people identify birds, plants, and wildlife. Congratulations to them, 50 years too late.
Ooh, that's like, you know, Princess Di and Prince Charles getting married. I mean, that is a big one. When Roger, what was his name?
Roger Torrey Peterson and Virginia Westervelt. We like to call her Ginny. That's our girl. You know, I mean, but who knew that Sports Illustrated, because I've never seen it. There was never a major athlete saying, For the Record, they got married. I just wonder why they chose this gentleman that pretty much no one knew about.
Yeah. Bizarro. I hope they had 50 years of bliss.
Sure they did. Sure they did. But I also helped a lot of people with birds, plants, and wildlife. Our three favorite things here.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, for sure.
Never miss my plant talk.
Kansas quarterback Nolan Cromwell recorded a 49.8 in the 400-meter intermediate hurdles, half a second under the record set in 1973 by Bob Primo. He would have an 11-year NFL career with the Rams, four-time Pro Bowler and a member of the All-80s team as a defensive back. How this guy is not in the Hall of Fame seems ridiculous to me. You would think that if you're in the All-Decade team, that alone would be enough, you know, on your resume to get you in the Hall of Fame. But
what's your ticket?
Not true for Nolan Cromwell, not yet at least. Faces in the crowd. Bill, Liz Hobbs.
Liz Hobbs, she was 14. She set 2 national YMCA records. But later in her life, she went to the Olympic trials 3 years. She was the Masters world record holder, and she was also the NAU assistant coach. Liz Hobbs was a swimmer.
Good for Liz. Wow.
Yep.
And Mark, you've got 4 brothers.
Yeah, Ed, Don, Larry, and Henry Montague. They're from West Monroe, Louisiana. They won the state's Golden Gloves Championship. So you have all these 4 brothers, okay, all excellent boxers. But the best of the brothers isn't mentioned here. There's one named Glenn Montague. He was a former top 20 ranked professional junior middleweight boxer. And his family, okay, consisted of 7 sisters and 10 brothers. Okay,
Ooh.
Think about that. 5 of the siblings chose boxing as a career, and Glenn's the only one not in the picture there in the article.
That's funny.
Yeah,
I can imagine that they had some interesting disagreements growing up in that household.
Oh yeah, and who won? Yeah, who won what?
Right. Hey, 19th hole, my favorite part of the magazine, Billy. I love the complainers.
Okay, this is Peter Ween from Milwaukee. He says, Sir, John Underwood's article was well written, but it must have been embarrassing for Jim Kennedy, the rest of the University of Missouri basketball team, the whole University of Missouri campus, and student athletes in general. As related by Underwood, Kennedy's attitudes toward his studies, his team's racial problems, and women serve only to reinforce the bad connotations of the word jock. Why not write an article on any of the thousands of college athletes who really are students? Thank you, Pete.
Wow. Imagine Pete today.
And you know what? He sounded like that as he was writing it. You captured him perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
You can see that disgust of what the heck's Jim Kennedy? Doesn't care about anybody. Why didn't they write it on someone else? You have to hit the table, though, because you got to make sure you're really angry.
That's our look back at the April 26, 1976 issue of Sports Illustrated. Evonne Goolagong battling Chris Everett, the wild violence in the NHL playoffs, bold Forbes and honest pleasure tearing up the Derby Trail, and so much more from the spring of 76. Huge thank you to Bill Mahoney and Mark Hoffman for another great show, because without you guys, I'd just be talking to myself. So, for Mark...
And You do that all the time when you're not on the podcast.
But now I'm going to get back. Mark, can I borrow your Richard Dunn book?
For Mark, for Bill, I'm Scott. We are past our prime.